This move just quietly revealed the United States' plan to buy more Bitcoin than Senator Cynthia Lummis had lined out, and even more than Michael Saylor had once proposed for the United States to buy in Bitcoin. Now, it's all in the tax advantage slash tax-free way that the United States has been describing. And I'm going to dive into more of this today as to why this could be a general trend and could send Bitcoin absolutely taking off. But first, let's dive in to how the US just revalued their gold reserves and what that could potentially mean. And one day later, Trump slapping a tariff on Swiss gold to 70%, which could send the gold market, well, it did send the gold market absolutely surging to above $3,500 an ounce, entering record high territory just after the US did that. Did he just pump the gold to finance Bitcoin buys without expanding that budget? The evergreen question that we keep asking seemingly every single day this year. When is the United States going to buy? And if they are, how much are they going to buy? I'm going to reveal today how I think that they might already be doing that. And many in the media have already been saying that. Now, let's listen into what Scott Bessent had to say here.
We are going big on digital assets. So Trump administration has made digital assets a priority. Past administration starved and almost made extinct a lot of these companies and pushed it offshore. So what we want to do.
So they're going big in digital assets and wanting to bring them more onshore. And I hinted at it earlier here where we already had Senator Cynthia Lummis propose the plan to buy 1 million Bitcoin and hold it for 20 years. So that would be over a 5-year period. So 200,000 Bitcoin every single year for 5 years. Now let's hear what she said that President Trump had to say about this.
Particularly pleased with President Trump's support of my strategic Bitcoin reserve initiative, which will address our national debt while securing America's position as the global leader in financial innovation.
So she says that President Trump is in full support of this. And then on top of all of that, we had Bo Hines come in and say something very peculiar here just not too long ago as well.
That, like I said at the summit yesterday, is as much as we can possibly get, so long as it's in budget neutral ways that don't cost the taxpayer a dime. I think we have a lot of high IQ people in the building that are working on this, and folks over at the Treasury office and folks over at Commerce working with the internal working group that was set up in the first digital assets EO. We'll be able to come up with ways to accumulate more really over the course of the next few years and beyond that. I mean, look, we view.
So they want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. I know that they're saying digital assets, but I did a little math for you guys here, just some digging so we could put this into perspective, because I think with all of this, this is what we really need to focus on, right? These budget neutral ways, they were like, how are we going to get all of this money? You know, we had Senator Cynthia Lummis propose that they should buy 1 million Bitcoin. So right now at Bitcoin price at about 115,000, you guys do the math. That's a lot of Skrilla Manila. And then if you were to go all the way to Michael Saylor's extremely bullish plan, where he wanted the US to buy up to 5 million coins, I mean, you know, that is a lot more money. But with what they just did, they could do all of this and more at the drop of a hat. Now, let's dive into the math here behind all of this, because this revaluation is bigger than everybody thinks. We allegedly have 261 trillion or million ounces, which at that book value is about $11 billion. Well, this is at the market price of 2,900. So this isn't even at the market price of 3,500 that we're at. but that would give it at 750 billion. So that unrealized gain would be up to 739 million, equating for about 6.4 million BTC with Bitcoin's current price. So if we do this at gold's evaluation of 3,500 per ounce, let's see what we get here. Then we get all of this, and we get the unrealized gains of $904 billion. So that would be 7.79 billion or million, excuse me, not billion, obviously, but that would be a massive amount of Bitcoin that, would essentially change the trajectory of the United States within the drop of a hat. I mean, this would just happen, and it could potentially happen just very quickly. Would make the United States the largest holder in Bitcoin, and essentially nobody would ever be able to catch them. And they've been saying that they wanted to do this in quiet and budget neutral ways. So they've been looking at ways to possibly acquire more. Well, you do all this. Now you have a bunch of capital just sitting on the sidelines with all this potential. Now you could just go and smash buy Bitcoin. You don't even have to announce it at this time, right? Bo Hines came out and said, hey, you know what? We could do this in the background. We don't actually have to tell everybody our full plan, but they're lining out the plan right now as to why they, essentially are accumulating a bunch of capital and, let's call it, quote unquote, liquidity. They could do anything they want with this money. They could attempt to pay off some of this $37 trillion worth of debt. I doubt they do that. They're probably going to try to invest some of this and maybe start to move it into something like a sovereign wealth fund or something like that, right? So it's something to keep a very close eye on because of what we're seeing right here. There's just simply not enough Bitcoin available. If you combined what we got here, the 2.24 million Bitcoin left on exchanges, and then maybe the 250,000 we've got left on OTC desk, maybe let's call it 500,000. We've got less than 3 million coins left on exchanges for sale. So we've got all of that, right? 3 million Bitcoin on exchanges for sale. If that all goes to the United States, they could potentially buy double that and more. And we don't think that there's a potential supply shock coming. It sounds to me like this is just adding up for a recipe of something to go boom. But the interesting part of all of this as well is, we've seen, even though we've seen the gold absolutely skyrocket, we've seen Bitcoin move into corporate treasuries and move away from the average retail investor. So McLovin actually took the words out of my mouth out here, is that saying they could buy Strategy, the company, or partner with some company like that to try to accumulate more and more Bitcoin. And I think that that's continuing to go along here. And I think that that's not going to stop. These institutions are going to keep buying. We're going to get into that in a little bit here in a second, but let's get back to the crypto czar, David Sachs, saying that the U.S. could possibly acquire more Bitcoin. I mean, the Trump admin has essentially been lining out this plan for you guys and doing it all out in the open. God bless these guys because they're laying out their hands and everything that they are doing directly to you guys and to everybody here. And they're saying, hey, you know what? We think we could buy Bitcoin. And we've even got the crypto czar, David Sachs, saying, why are all the top banks still restricting these Bitcoin the Bitcoin ETFs on their wealth management platform? Is this the last vestige of the debanking regulations that they're going on? I mean, it seems like everybody and their mother is seeing the writing on the wall. And Trump and his new admin, as he's bringing in more and more people that are just essentially bullish on Bitcoin, and we're going to bring into some of those recent changes here in a second, all of this is lining up for something to go boom. I think that the amount of buying pressure that we have right now and seeing, this continue to skyrocket in flight, it's going to be something that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on, because the buying pressure is not going anywhere. We've got the amount of money on the sidelines that we've never seen before, and people just quite frankly aren't selling. And I think neither should you. This is why I've partnered over with my friends over at Salt Lending. You can go to saltlending.com/green candle today. And if you do, they're going to give you a exclusive offer for the listeners of the Green Candle channel. All the people that are fans of Green Candle get an exclusive offer. So you got to go there to get it. But either way, you go to Salt Lending, they're going to give you some of the most competitive rates at 8.95%, some of the most competitive LTV. They got duration up to 12 months. They've got all these different things. And on top of it all, they do not rehypothecate, and they've got a no liquidation solution with Salt Shield, if that is something that's worrying you. So overall, they've been in this space for nearly a decade, 9 years. So they're one of the longest standing operations in the game. And on top of it, they are just providing an excellent service. So let's give you guys some free sats courtesy of my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. Let's go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle. You sign up, you'll get 500. You buy Bitcoin, you get 500 more. That's 2 chances for you guys to win 1 million sats. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button so you guys can get sats potentially every time you come to the Green Candle channel. Wow, 780 sats. We're racking this up. We are racking up some sats here, folks. So make sure you're going to bitcoinwell.com/green candle, signing up here today so you can get your 500 Wishing Well points. And if not, you could scroll on down, book a call with a specialist if needed, and continue to watch this Bitcoin thing hum along. Because what else did we see here recently? We saw Trump nominate an economic advisor, Stephen Moran. Now, I don't know if you guys know much about this Stephen Moran cat, but Stephen Moran has been tweeting out about Bitcoin there for quite some time. He said Bitcoin fixes this. He said this back in August of 23 and in January of 2022. I mean, my guy's a Bitcoin bull secretly. Of course, he is just maybe potentially filling a chair for quite some time, for a few months. I mean, if you go to, what CNBC is saying, he has been at the beginning of my second term. He will likely serve in the position through 26, the balance in an unexpired term. And he's not a potential replacement, but there are some things that are interesting of him. He is somewhat of a yes man. And because he is somewhat of a yes man to Trump, they think that this means that, hey, you know what we're going to see in 39 days? A rate cut. I mean, we've gotten down to 89%, but it's still just about that 90% mark that we are going to cut interest rates at the next meeting, which is going to send more liquidity towards Bitcoin. And you guys know the M2 money supply chart. I mean, we talk about that ad nauseum on this channel, on every channel, it seems. Every Bitcoin related channel talks about the M2 money supply. But when you really break it down and come to brass tacks, these things are going to continue to just follow suit, right? History repeats. Sometimes it rhymes, right? So when you start to see these things start to line up, you're going to see some potential FUD in the news, right? Like UK, all right, well, we're going to try to boost our budget by selling $7 billion worth of seized Bitcoin to boost it, right? And why is this significant? Well, the UK is actually the 3rd largest holder in Bitcoin when it comes to any country globally. Now, the US, obviously the top dog, and we could potentially buy some more Bitcoin utilizing this method. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that. The US quietly stacking in the background. Hell, they could be doing it right now because everybody and their mother is continuing to stack. Strategy has increased their holdings by 60% since Trump came into office. Trump's been in office less than 8 months, folks. They've been doing this strategy for 4 years. So, doing this strategy and seeing the positive, let's call it, these positive aspects that the Trump administration has, we're definitely seeing more publicly traded companies start to come on. We haven't seen some come on in a couple days. That's why we're just sitting at 19 in the past 30 days. It's about one every other day. But still, we've got Bitcoin floating around this $116,000 mark, $117,000 mark. So I think that these things are going to just come. I mean, it's just a matter of time before more of these Bitcoin companies start to see what is going on with Trump, his Federal Reserve, the governors, all of these guys, what they're doing, right? I mean, I just lined it out for you guys. This book value at $42 an ounce isn't even remotely close to the market value at nearly 35 grand or 3,500, excuse me, an ounce, which would make for $904 billion worth of unrealized gains. You can then create, that sovereign wealth fund that the president is clamoring about, that he's hired Howard Lubnick, who is a huge Bitcoin bull and is one of the largest, Cantor Fitzgerald, where he came from, one of the largest holders in MSTR. So as I go through these things, I hope you guys realize just how connected all of these things are. These things don't come out of coincidence. And the thing I love to say about the Bitcoin space is when there's smoke, there's fire. And it continues to just have smoke come out of here, coming out your ears, honestly. Smoke just flying out of everywhere because it keeps on continuing to go up. TF is saying, I don't see any values in the certificate. It's like double accounting, isn't it? If the U.S. has gold and gold certificates as its asset. Allegedly, the U.S. has all of the gold in Fort Knox. That is the alleged thing. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, not too long ago, Elon and Trump were talking about, hey, audit Fort Knox. But then they realized that full audit would take like 10 years to complete or something crazy. And so because it would take such a long time, they think that, it just wasn't really worth the time. But these insurance companies, pension one and 401ks are about to buy a ton. Exactly. And these 401ks, they just got opened up towards Bitcoin and crypto. I mean, it pains me to say it. Yes, potentially that paper gold. We got to watch out for that. There could be some scams there. And I mean, it's not just the government who gets scammed by paper gold. I don't know if you guys saw this or recall this, where JP Morgan got delivered 4 billion worth of gold bullions. Oh no, this is when is this? February 14th. You called the state-run bank. Oh no, excuse me. Of JP Morgan got delivered fake gold. There we go. As they know, I've searched this before. Counterfeit stamped gold found in JP Morgan vaults. Look at that. So Jamie Dimon, hey, you know what? He's been the guy that's been saying all the negative things about Bitcoin. Well, his ass got fooled by counterfeit stamped gold in JP Morgan vaults not too long ago. 6 years ago, before Bitcoin made its bull run up. So this just highlights another issue with having gold as, a giant reserve. And I think that that's going to continue to, just watch what we're observing here, because I think, the more that we get into the mix with all of this stuff, the more we're going to start to have to watch this play out. Yeah, I mean, I'd watch out for those videos, those live videos. Something could be AI. I mean, I wouldn't trust anything, to be honest, out of this point, because the only thing I could trust is true and verifiable. And at this point, it's Bitcoin. Everything else I hear, unless it's some sort of conspiracy theory and we have a bunch of people denying it, outside of that, I honestly think that when you look at what's going on here, how could you not be bullish on Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin going forward? Make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong, and hitting that subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend. I just dropped a podcast with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. M. I was on his podcast. So make sure you go and check that out here today. And I will catch you guys all at the next one.